The music industry began changing at the beginning of the 21st century, and in many ways for the worse. Here are some of the messed up things that kicked off the new millennium of music. The case could be made that all it took to bring the music industry down was a computer program. According to BBC, the evolution of music distribution started when 19-year-old computer hacker Sean Fanning developed Napster, a software that allowed him to easily trade electronic music files with his friends online. Launched in 1999, Napster instantly created a global network of free music distribution, radically disrupting the music industry's revenue model. As Steve Knopper notes in his book Appetite for Self-Destruction, record companies have been pushing CDs since the format's launch in 1982. According to Forbes, this venture paid off in spades in the 90s, with CD sales comprising almost 90% of the music industry's revenue. Knopper observed that as time went on, the profit margins for CDs only grew, and by 2000, a single unit could be sold for $18.
That'll be $904.
Well, that seems a little high.
Frustrated with these outrageous CD prices, people jumped at the chance to download free music. According to Elliot Obermeyer in Perspectives on Black Market, Napster had over 75 million users by the end of 2000. Unfortunately, artists and record companies saw no profit from these downloads, meaning the price of an album had gone from its highest point in history to free in under a year. As Kerrang notes, Napster wasn't the first major epidemic of piracy in the music industry. That famously happened in the early 80s with the surge of home taping. Unlike the laborious act of illegally copying and distributing bootlegs, however, there were really only two options. You needed to know someone who had a copy of the music you wanted and then could record it onto a tape, or you could call a radio station, ask them to play a song, and then record it. Obviously, file sharing was a much more convenient way for the home pirate. The Recording Industry Association of America, or RIAA, sued Napster for copyright infringement in 2000, but the legal proceedings flew beneath the public's radar until Napster angered a particularly well-known band. After Metallica's single I Disappear mysteriously leaked far ahead of its planned release, the heavy metal rockers were quick to act, suing Napster on April 13, 2000. While the RIAA and Metallica ultimately ended up winning their suits against Napster, they made an enemy of many music lovers who used the platform. By 2001, the website was all but defeated, but the damage had been done. Metallica came to symbolize the greed of the music industry, and the RIAA went on to sue around 35,000 individuals, including a child and a dead person. These choices did not bode well for the bigwigs of the industry. Although its glory days were short-lived, Napster had given the world a taste of digital music. According to Obermeyer, other peer-to-peer file-sharing programs like LimeWire quickly took its place. Meanwhile, record sales fell by 33% in 2000, sending the clear message that MP3s were the future of music. Still, the music industry clung to CDs. According to The Guardian, it had focused more energy on combating CD burners than investing in digital music in the late 90s, before ultimately wasting valuable years fighting Napster. As record companies fought the digital music uptick, Steve Jobs saw an opportunity. His company, Apple, then a struggling computer manufacturer, launched iTunes in 2001. This computer program allowed CDs to be converted to MP3s and burned, taking music one step closer to going fully digital.
Gonna put music in your pocket.
Later that year, the iPod was released, making it possible to carry thousands of songs in a pocket-sized digital device. According to Wired, Jobs then convinced the major record labels to sign off on a digital music store. In 2003, the iTunes Store was born, allowing songs to be purchased and immediately downloaded, bypassing a physical format altogether. This development essentially sealed the CD's fate. According to CNN Money, the industry's revenue fell by over half between 1999 and 2009. Few who watched it will ever forget 2004's Super Bowl XXXVIII halftime show, which has since come to be known as Nipplegate. As Billboard notes, near the end of Janet Jackson's headlining set, rising star Justin Timberlake made a surprise cameo, and the two performed his hit song Rock Your Body. As Timberlake sang the line, "Bet I'll have you naked by the end of this song," he ripped a piece of Jacent's top away, revealing her right breast on national television. While Billboard reports it was only visible for less than a second, the exposure quickly became one of the biggest scandals of the decade. According to People, MTV, Timberlake, and Jacent all issued formal apologies for the incident, which they maintained was an accident, and the Federal Communications Commission investigated the performance for indecency violations. Timberlake won 2 Grammys that year, continued to enjoy a prosperous career, and even performed at the Super Bowl again in 2018. Jacent, meanwhile, was punished severely. According to Billboard, she was banned from attending the 2004 Grammy Awards, lost a movie deal, and was ruthlessly mocked online. Her songs and music videos were also blacklisted, causing her album Demita Joe to flop. After a career spent exposing corruption in the financial, drug, and insurance worlds, New York Attorney General Eliot Spitzer set his sights on the music industry. According to The Guardian, he spent a year investigating how record companies did business in the early 2000s. The results were appalling, if not entirely shocking. Spitzer compiled 59 pages of damning correspondence between major label Sony BMG and radio programmers, in which Sony offered money, vacations, assistance with expenses, and concert tickets to ensure that their artists' songs got airplay. In one particularly shameless email exchange, a Sony employee told a programmer, "What do I have to do to get Audioslave on WKSS this week? Whatever you can dream up, I can make it happen." The practice of radio pay-for-play, known as Payola, is nothing new in the music industry. In fact, it created such a fiasco in the 1950s that it was made a federal offense. However, this hasn't deterred record companies from finding sneakier ways of accomplishing it. Following Spitzer's allegations, Sony apologized and paid a settlement of $10 million in 2005. As Steve Knopper wrote in Appetite for Self-Destruction, radio stations became more wary of record company submissions following the scandal, and station higher-ups started using tracking CDs received from labels. Out of caution, many programmers opted to recycle older songs instead, meaning fewer new songs were played. According to Something Else, lip-syncing has been a part of the music industry since the 1940s. The practice continued through the 80s, as people expected live shows to match the glittering perfection of the staged music videos they saw on MTV. Performances became increasingly extravagant, and artists like Madonna and Michael Jackson began lip-syncing simply so they would sound good while executing strenuous dance moves and other acrobatics. For the most part, audiences tended not to mind these choices. This all changed in 1989 when R&B duo Milli Vanilli was caught lip-syncing, and it was later revealed that the pair were not the singers listeners heard on the recordings. Fans felt betrayed by this lack of authenticity, and from that moment on, were quick to point out when an artist used a backing track. One of the most famous examples of this newfound scorn was the demise of pop singer Ashlee Simpson's brief musical career, following a lip-syncing mishap on Saturday Night Live in 2004. Simpson had already performed her song Pieces of Me when the track erroneously began playing while she was supposed to be singing a second song. Clearly confused and with the microphone nowhere near her mouth as her voice rang out, Simpson performed a few awkward dance moves before skittering off stage.
And I woke up and I had no voice, and then I should have said, no, I will not go on, I will not do this.
As Something Else notes, Britney Spears also faced backlash for lip-syncing on her 2009 Australia tour. Some disappointed fans even stormed out of her shows as a result. As demand for physical music fell, stores that exclusively sold records began to suffer major profit losses. According to Steve Knopper, the demise of record stores was accelerated by the fact that record companies had also started selling CDs in department stores like Target, Best Buy, and Walmart. These stores discounted CDs to free up shelf space for their many other products, and unable to compete with the lower prices from big box stores, hundreds of record stores were forced to close their doors. Even Sam Goody, the ubiquitous mall music store, perished in 2006. Perhaps the most painful loss was the death of Tower Records, which had been a staple of music culture throughout the 80s and 90s. As NPR notes, Tower Records stores functioned as local hangouts for music lovers and were often staffed with tastemakers and aficionados eager to discuss and recommend albums. According to the documentary All Things Must Pass, Even Elton John made a weekly trip to the store to stock up on new releases. Unfortunately, the chain had gone into debt in an attempt to expand during the CD boom of the 90s, and with the sudden decline of record sales, was no longer able to break even. Once an international franchise, Tower Records filed for bankruptcy in 2006, taking its unique culture with it. As music sales declined, record companies looked for other ways to keep their profits up. As Napster recalled an appetite for self-destruction, major labels began exploring an arrangement called the 360-degree deal, which allowed them to share in revenue artists earned from merchandise, publishing, touring, and other assets. Where historically labels only earned money from record sales, 360 deals allowed them to profit off everything an artist did in exchange for exposure. According to Vice, such deals became increasingly common in the mid-2000s and represented a shift in the music industry. Artists were no longer viewed as music makers, but as celebrities whose entire careers had to be managed. In an interview with Hit Quarters, Panos Panay, the CEO of online promotion company Sonic Bids, cited a core issue with the 360 deal, saying, "They're going to tell you, you have to put out another record. You have to go on the road. There's two things we know about creativity. You can't force it, you can't really control it." In an interview with Billboard, indie musician Mac DeMarco advised artists to avoid signing a 360 deal at all costs, claiming it was outright theft, and warning that it gave labels complete ownership of an artist's image. As the music industry's empire crumbled, other corporations were quick to capitalize on concerts, the future of music profits. The most successful of these was Live Nation, which, according to the Wall Street Journal, was born in 2005 as a rebranding of Clear Channel Communications' entertainment unit. In 2006, Live Nation acquired most of the large music venues in the United States when it purchased the House of Blues chain. According to Rolling Stone, the company also signed a multi-million-dollar 360 deal with Madonna in 2007, marking the first of many such arrangements with top-tier artists. Live Nation quickly became the largest concert promotion company in the world. According to TechCrunch, they secured an even greater hold over the industry in 2009 when they initiated a merger with Ticketmaster, the world's biggest ticket seller.
Ticketmaster.
As The Guardian notes, this gave one entity, later named Live Nation Entertainment, dominion over more than 140 venues, 200 artists, 22,000 shows, and 150 million tickets each year. Many people feared that such a monopoly would negatively impact fans, and it has. As Time magazine reported, Live Nation Entertainment's add-on fees could reach up to 78% of the ticket price in 2022, over triple what they charged in the 90s. R&B artist R. Kelly was at the center of several scandals involving underage girls in the 90s. As the Washington Post notes, the adult Kelly illegally married 15-year-old Aaliyah in 1994, and Tiffany Hawkins sued his record label and accused him of sleeping with her when she was 15. Still, Kelly's star was shining bright in the early 2000s.
Nobody believed me. And after that, it continued to happen again and again.
In fact, he was performing at the 2002 Winter Olympics when news broke that police had obtained a secret sex tape that featured him having sex with and urinating on a teenager. Kelly stood trial for child pornography charges in 2008 but was acquitted, although his own lawyer later told the Chicago Sun-Times that he was guilty. His career continued unimpeded until 2017, when BuzzFeed ran a report alleging he kept women captive in a sex cult that renewed public interest in his transgressions. By 2018, several victims had come forward, and a boycott of Kelly resulted in the removal of his catalog from streaming services, according to BBC. Even so, his record label, RCA, continued to support the singer, refusing to part ways with him until 2019. As of 2023, he is serving 30 years in prison for racketeering and sex trafficking charges and is on trial for sexual abuse. R&B artists Rihanna and Chris Brown were music's hottest couple in the late 2000s. According to E! News, then 20-year-old Rihanna was fresh off her success with 2007's Umbrella, and the 19-year-old Brown's 2005 debut album had already sold over 3 million copies when the pair got together. Both were scheduled to perform at the 2009 Grammys, but a violent controversy broke out the night before. According to the Los Angeles Police Department, the two were traveling in a car together when Rihanna discovered a text message from Brown's ex-girlfriend on his phone, which led to a fight. While driving, Brown slammed Rihanna's head against the window, repeatedly punched her in the face, bit her ear, and threatened to kill her. Once parked, he nearly suffocated her with a headlock and beat her before she managed to call for help. As NBC News notes, Brown was charged with felony domestic assault, but was given a lenient punishment of community service, counseling, and a restraining order without jail time. His label didn't drop him, and his career barely suffered. In fact, he even won a Grammy in 2012. According to NBC News, his violence against women hasn't stopped either. An ex-girlfriend filed a restraining order against him in 2017, and he was accused of punching another woman in 2021. If you or anyone you know has been a victim of sexual assault, help is available. Visit the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network website or contact RAIN's National Helpline at 1-800-656-HOPE, 1-800-656-4673.